Hey there, www.andrewmarkmusic.com. Today's video is going to be me talking about my idiosyncratic take on the distinctions between states of human consciousness and other dimensions. So a part of this will be factual and a part of it will be metaphysical speculation. We tend to like medical speculation here. So, okay, so we'll get into it now. I guess the first thing I've got to say is I have to talk a little bit about who I am. The first thing you need to know about me is that I wasn't vetted by anybody. I didn't go through the academies, Western academies, so I'm not subject to their very subtle types of mind control. I didn't go through any religious indoctrination. I wasn't raised in religion. I didn't spend time within religion, so I didn't get indoctrinated into that very type of subtle mind control. I come from the school of hard knocks. If anybody wants to trade horror stories, I've got some good ones. I did copious amounts of entheogens, known as, LSD, mushrooms, peyote, things like that. I did only experiment with them through about a 6-year period from 1978, 79 to 85, 86. And then I haven't touched anything since, and it's been a long time. Okay, so that's just a little bit about me. So first off, we'll talk about briefly dimensions that we know exist. Okay, so we have the first dimension, which is length, and then height, and then breadth. So we have these three dimensions, and my own personal take on it is that time was embedded within the first dimension. So as soon as you had point A and point B in the first dimension, time came embedded within that first dimension, and it's embedded within the three-dimensional universe. Now, whether time has its own fourth dimension, I'm not going to argue against that, but that doesn't take away that it's also embedded within these dimensions. It likely does have its own dimension, and if you could exist within that fourth dimension, you would be seeing everything at once. So that's my take on that. That's the foundation of dimensional theory. Now, I will say that, in my opinion, and now we're getting into speculative metaphysics, is that there are higher dimensions. So these are higher frequencies, higher vibrations. We don't have the instrumentation to access these dimensions. In my opinion, the Earth exists in higher dimensions. Okay, so you have this pristine place that exists, and that you exist physically as an energetic body in a pristine place on another Earth, just like this one, but without the distortions and the influence of lower dimensions. So if there's higher dimensions, there's also lower dimensions. You could think of this as like negative dimensions. Okay, or like an analogy would be interest rates. Now we're getting into negative interest rates. Well, there's apparently, in my opinion, negative dimensions. All right, these are real vibratory places that exist, and they're populated just as higher dimensions are populated with light beings of sorts. Then these lower dimensions are also populated. So this is my theory of dimensions. Now, the last point I'll make here is that the human mind, as far as the brain capabilities and the perceptual apparatus, faculties within it, are only capable of seeing, and sensing 3 dimensions, 4 dimensions, maybe the 5th dimension you can sense it. But that's it. We don't have access. As remarkable as these bodies may be, we just don't have access to these other dimensions. Okay, so now I'm going to get into states of human consciousness. We know that we exist within what's traditionally be called the gross dimensions. This is our physical existence within 3D, this body. And then we have this would be correlated to the biosphere, and then we have the subtle. This is the mind. Desjardins, he correlated it with what he called the noosphere. So this is the I like the word realm. I'm gonna implement the word realm here. It's not a perfect analogy, but it helps get a sense of what I'm talking about. So there's this subtle realm of mind, known by some as the noosphere, and then you have within that subtle realm, you have imagination and dreams and things like that. And then there's what's known as the causal. Now the causal is interesting to me because you have to get into people like David Bohm and Aurobindo's theories of involution to understand the causal. Carl Jung's unconscious, the subconscious, all of this percolated through time in ways that we don't understand. It's probably, in my opinion, tied into the theory of panpsychism. I'm a panpsychic, but I'm not going to get into that. But as far as this realm, it's causal. The human mind, as we know it today, came from these involutionary processes. But the main thing to understand about it is they are a part of these 3 dimensions. Okay, that's the most crucial part of what I'm going to say here. And then the final experience within state consciousness, human state consciousness, is called the non-dual. I also believe that is a part of these 3 dimensions. And I personally call it the void. Okay, so it's a very real experience within the human mind, and it's interpreted in many different ways, but in my interpretation, it's a part of these dimensions. So when someone experiences non-duality, they're experiencing these dimensions, a state of consciousness within these 3 dimensions, and it is a vast void. Okay, it's really unexplainable. It's real. It exists. Emptiness. Just there's no thought there. It's just. It's almost pointless trying to talk about what this is, but I'll just leave it at that. But for this video, in this context, the most important part is it's a part of these 3-dimensional mind states that came out of all the involutionary processes as they got mixed in with evolutionary processes as far as mind and how mind developed in human beings. So, okay, so now I would probably touch on the experiences of entheogens. and extraordinary altered states. Now, this is completely speculative on my part, and it's by no means uniform. So, this is just my opinion on it, is that certain entheogens like DMT can open up some kind of portal where you actually do get to experience other dimensions, where you actually leave the mind state experience of these dimensions, and you get somehow taken to other dimensions, other very real dimensions of existence. Not every hallucinogenic experience is going to be that. It's not everyone is going to take you to another dimension. I would even say most of the experiences within hallucinogenic experience or drugs are being experienced within these three dimensions, these three-dimensional mind states. I've had multiple, experience with them. Looking into the sky once at Rochdale College in Toronto and seeing the whole universe as alive and intelligent and sentient and breathing, right? That was not an interdimensional experience. I was experiencing how these dimensions could possibly be. And, another time on Wreck Beach in Vancouver on mushrooms, I had an experience where I got the nano schooling from the universe about how intelligent the human body is on the nano level, right? And to me, again, all these experiences point towards panpsychism being true and real, that the universe is intelligent on multiple levels. But the main point I'm making in this video is that when one has a state experience, from the subtle to the causal to the non-dual, you are experiencing three dimensions of this universe. You're experiencing realms within this three-dimensional universe for the most part. And the second point I'm making is that interdimensionality, if it's real, and I believe it is, has really nothing to do with these state experiences here. And that these are separate existences that are populated by, extraordinary beings with energetic bodies, and there's positive places and negative places. So in this, as an analogy, you could think of it as three layers. Okay, so we're stuck in the middle of these three, and then there's lower band populated areas. And by the way, it's these lower bands that are really, having an effect on what's going on this planet, because they control the mind here. And people like David Icke are actually correct, where these lower frequency beings actually want to control the three-dimensional mindset on this planet. And this is their goal through the trans movement there, with their technocracy and their transhumanism and artificial intelligence. I believe David Icke's pointing towards something that's real and really happening, and that these lower dimensional entities really do want this. They want to control the human mind. So it is a type of perception management. Icke's right about that. Now, conversely, the higher dimensions, they're pristine. None of these shenanigans happen there. So, and we very well may exist, some of us, in this parallel reality. That this to me is is quite plausible. I mean, it's speculative. There's no way for me to prove this, but this is just my personal belief about what's happening here. And I think the distinctions are extraordinarily important. And I think there's just massive confusion around these issues. Some of it just because it's complex and quite, in my opinion, quite a high percentage of it is just misinformation and disinformation by the archons who are, here to cause confusion about the nature of reality. So anyway, I could probably go on about this, but I'd rather truncate this video and just leave it at that. I think most of the main points I've covered that I wanted to cover. Okay, so anyway, www.andrewmarkmusic.com on the distinctions between state experiences and multidimensionality. Peace out, peace the fuck out.